Ever feel like you're walking a tightrope,
Oh, yeah.
like during a surgery, and it's not going to plan?
Right.
Or maybe you just can't figure out what's wrong with an animal,
Yep.
and it feels like you've tried everything.
Yep.
In vet, I bet those situations feel super intense.
Absolutely.
You've got an animal's life in your hands.
Yeah.
The owner's right there looking at you all worried.
Mm-hmm.
Ever been in a spot like that where you had to rely on something you couldn't even explain?
All the time.
Yeah,
Feeling like you're in over your head.
exactly.
Yeah, that's something we all deal with.
And today, we're going to dive into that feeling of uncertainty.
Okay.
We have this really interesting piece from the Bearded Bark.
Cool.
It connects the challenges you face every day as a vet
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to the story of this guy named George Müller.
Never heard of him.
He lived back in the 1800s,
Okay.
and his whole life was about dealing with uncertainty.
Interesting.
But get this, he did it all through faith. Actually, this article was inspired by Mike Mazik's writing on Mueller,
Oh, right. Yeah.
which really brought his story to the forefront.
Got it.
So, who was this George Mueller?
Well, he took care of thousands of orphans in England.
Wow.
And what's really amazing is how he provided for them.
Okay, how?
He decided not to ask for donations.
At all?
Nope. He relied totally on prayer.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He trusted that God would provide.
that's a pretty radical approach.
Yeah, especially with so many kids to feed.
So we want to explore that idea with you today.
Right.
How can this story from history about faith help us understand the pressures and the unpredictability of veterinary medicine?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We're not saying you have to follow his exact step,
Right.
but we want to see if the principles of trust and resilience that he lived by
Mm-hmm.
can apply to your work too.
And how we see those surprising moments when things suddenly work out.
Exactly.
I like it.
So let's break it down.
Sounds good.
Miller's whole approach was built on this deep trust in prayer.
Right.
It wasn't just hoping for the best.
No.
He truly believed that God would meet his needs and the needs of the orphanages.
It's a different way of thinking
Totally.
than how we usually solve problems, that's for sure.
The Bearded Bark article talks about this one story.
Okay.
And honestly, it's hard to believe.
Really?
Picture this. It's breakfast time at the orphanage.
Right.
Hundreds of kids are waiting to eat,
Yeah.
but there's no food.
Oh, no.
Nothing.
What did he do?
Can you imagine that pressure?
Wow, yeah.
But instead of freaking out,
Yeah.
Miller gathered all the children
And then
and they prayed.
they prayed.
Yep. They prayed and gave thanks for the meal they were about to receive.
But there was no food.
That's the crazy part.
That's why.
The cupboards were totally bare.
That's incredible.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
he was so sure that they would be provided for,
Wow.
that he expressed gratitude even before the food showed up.
That takes a lot of faith.
It really does.
So what happened?
So they finished praying,
Yeah.
and a few minutes later, knock, knock,
Someone's at the door.
a baker shows up
A baker?
with fresh bread.
No way.
And he says he just felt like baking extra that morning.
What a coincidence.
But that's not all.
There's more?
Right after the baker leaves, another knock.
Oh, wow.
This time it's a milkman.
No kidding.
And guess what?
What?
His cart broke down right outside the orphanage.
Oh, wow.
And he's got all this milk that he can't deliver.
So he just gives it to them.
He donates the whole supply so it won't go bad.
I can't believe it.
It's a pretty amazing story, right?
It's incredible.
Now, it's easy to just call it a coincidence.
Yeah.
But the Bearded Bark article makes a great point about how this relates to your world, to veterinary medicine.
Okay.
Think about those times when you've had an animal
Yeah.
that seems like a lost cause,
Hmm.
and then, bam, they make a miraculous recovery.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Or maybe you desperately needed a specific piece of equipment,
Uh-huh.
and somehow it became available at the last second.
Wow, yeah.
Or you're stuck on a tough case,
Yeah.
and then a colleague says something
Mm-hmm.
that totally changes your whole approach.
You're right.
It's like things just fall into place sometimes
That's true.
in ways you never could have predicted.
You're right.
It's like those moments when you think you've hit a wall
Yeah.
and suddenly a new path opens up.
It's a good feeling.
So even if you're a very practical person,
Yeah.
Miller's story reminds us
Mm-hmm.
that there's power in staying hopeful
Absolutely.
and in finding creative solutions, even when things look really bad.
Right.
Maybe that means paying extra close attention to those little details in a tough case.
Yeah.
Or being more willing to collaborate with others when you feel like you're running out of options.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, The article then brings up this really interesting idea.
Okay.
It's from Mike Mazik's piece, and it quotes a prayer by missionary Jim Elliot.
Interesting.
It says, "Father, make me a crisis man. Bring those I contact to decision. Let me not be a milepost on a single road. Make me a fork that men must turn one way or another on facing Christ in me."
Wow. That's quite a prayer.
It really makes you think, right?
It does.
It's not just about being present in someone's life.
No.
It's about being a point of change,
Okay.
like a fork in the road,
I like that.
where you help them make a decision or take a new direction.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that even our everyday interactions can have a big impact.
Right.
And then the bearded bark takes that idea and asks you this question.
Okay. What is it?
When people meet me, do they feel challenged to make a decision? Do they walk away the same, or do they reconsider the direction of their lives?
That's deep.
It's not about forcing people to change.
No.
It's about the quality of your interactions
Right.
and whether they make people stop and think.
It makes you think about your own impact
Exactly.
on the people around us.
So how does this idea of being a fork in the road apply to veterinary medicine?
Well, think about those tough conversations you have with pet owners
Oh.
about their animals' care.
Yeah.
Like when they're facing euthanasia.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's an expensive treatment,
Right.
but the outcome's uncertain. Or maybe their pet has a chronic condition that needs to be managed.
Those are all really difficult situations.
They are. And in those moments, are you just giving information?
Yeah.
Or are you helping them to think deeply about their values?
Their priorities.
Exactly. And what's truly best for their pet.
So being a fork doesn't mean giving people an ultimatum.
Right.
It's more about encouraging them to really think things through. Maybe you ask a pet owner how comfortable they are with different treatment options.
Yeah.
And that prompts them to really consider what's most important.
It's about helping them navigate those tough choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the bearded bark emphasizes that in vet med.
Yeah.
Your influence reaches a lot of people.
That's true.
You're impacting the animals, of course,
Of course.
but also their families
Yeah.
who love them so much,
Right.
and your colleagues
Yeah.
who depend on your knowledge and support.
Absolutely.
So think about this.
Okay.
When someone leaves your clinic
Yeah.
or even just finishes a conversation with you,
Hmm.
have you given them something to think about?
That's a good question.
Have you been a fork in the road
A fork in the road, huh?
that helped them make a better decision?
Yeah.
Or see things from a new perspective?
It's about more than just the medical stuff.
It is.
It's about the human element, too.
Exactly.
And how we connect with each other.
And the bearded bark makes it clear that they're not just trying to give you a little boost of inspiration.
Right.
They call it a mental health snack.
A mental health snack.
Yeah, like something that makes you feel good for a minute,
Okay.
but then you forget about it.
I see.
They want to go deeper than that.
Yeah.
They want to make a real difference in how people approach their lives and their work.
That's a good goal.
Now, they do say that not every interaction has to be this huge life-changing event.
Right.
Sometimes they just want to give you something to think about.
Some food for thought.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that.
But even those smaller moments can be valuable,
Yeah.
especially when you're busy and stressed.
Yeah. You need those moments to pause and reflect.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day.
They really hit on this key idea.
Oh, okay. What's that?
We all face this choice between trust and fear,
That's true.
especially when things get tough.
It's like, which one are you going to let guide you?
Exactly.
Trust or fear?
And they point out that in vet med,
Yeah.
you're going to face challenges.
Oh, yeah.
Emergencies will pop up out of nowhere.
Yep.
You'll have to give heartbreaking diagnoses.
It comes with the territory.
It's just part of life, really.
That's true.
And the key isn't to avoid those situations.
You can't always avoid them.
Right, right. It's about how you respond to them.
Okay.
So how do you respond when things get tough?
Well, that's where the name bearded bark comes in.
Oh, yeah.
The article says it symbolizes all these important things.
What kinds of things?
Like tradition, honor, community,
Okay.
resilience, strength,
Mm-hmm.
and even those scars that show you've been through tough times.
So it's like a symbol of someone who's weathered the storm
Yeah, exactly.
and come out stronger on the other side.
They've got the experience to back it up.
And the article suggests that the bearded bark itself
Mm-hmm.
can be like that fork in the road for its readers.
Interesting.
It can offer a different way of looking at things,
Right.
a sense of community,
Yeah,
and a reminder of those values that help you get through tough times.
I like that.
But ultimately, it's up to each person to decide how they want to use that.
Makes sense. It's a personal choice.
So let's bring this back to you, the listener.
Yep.
Think about that tightrope feeling we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Or maybe another time when you faced a ton of uncertainty at work.
Okay.
Maybe you didn't have the resources you needed.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't figure out what was wrong with an animal. Or the prognosis just looked really bad.
Those are all tough situations.
In those moments, what did you do?
What did I do?
Did you rely on your training,
Okay.
on your team,
Yeah.
or maybe just on your own resilience?
Mm-hmm.
And now that you've heard about this idea of being a fork in the road,
Right.
how might that change how you interact with your colleagues and your clients in the future?
That's a good thing to consider.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
let's recap what we've talked about.
Sounds good.
We heard the story of George Müller
Yeah.
and how his faith helped him overcome incredible challenges.
He was a pretty inspiring guy.
And we saw how that relates to the unexpected things that happen in vet med.
Like those moments when things work out in ways you never could have imagined.
Right. And then we explored this idea of being a fork in the road.
Yeah, that was a good one.
How our interactions can help people think differently and make better decisions.
It's about being more than just a passive observer in people's lives.
And finally, we talked about the choice between trust and fear and how that shows up when we face difficult situations.
It's a choice we all have to make.
So for everyone listening,
Yeah.
especially those of you working in the demanding world of vet med, we want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay, shoot.
What fork in the road are you presenting to others
That's interesting.
without even realizing it?
Yeah.
Through your actions, your words,
Right.
and just your overall approach to your work.
Okay.
How can you be more aware of that?
I see what you're saying.
And maybe even start doing it on purpose.
Intentionally being a fork in the road.
Yeah. Being someone who encourages others to think carefully, be resilient,
Yeah.
and choose trust even when things are uncertain.
It's a powerful idea.
It's something to think about as you continue your important work.
Absolutely. Thanks for this.
Of course.
It was a good one.
Right. See ya.